the Spirit harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life is resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
So I titled my talk today, Expect the Unexpected. Expectation is the theme this month. And I have a cautious attitude towards expectation. I say this because I think they can be helpful or hurtful when expectations are unclear, or when we are unaware of our own expectations or of those others have on us. What kind of beliefs and judgments are they composed of? How do expectations function? Do we have any control, and how do they impact our lives? Take a moment to consider some of the expectations in your life. What are they? I found when I thought about that, some are obvious and some are kind of sneaky. We have some expectations to help us feel secure, like the sun rising every day, we keep our job if we meet the metrics, and our home will still be there when we return. We know that things happen, and we may have a bad surprise, but usually we don't want to expect the unexpected. It's so much more comforting when things go according to plan, when entropy and impermanence don't assert their presence in our lives. Regardless if we set high, medium, or low expectations, one thing is for sure: the unexpected happens. The COVID pandemic is a case in point. I expected most people would be willing to get the vaccine to potentially avoid getting seriously ill, but it has met an unexpected level of resistance by many people. My expectations are based on my family experience. My father was in the Korean War and caught 2 different types of polio. He was airlifted, strapped underneath a helicopter, and doctors didn't expect him to walk again. But thankfully he did. So when I was little, as soon as the polio vaccine was available, My father wanted me to get it so that I would be spared the disease. My grandfather almost died as a child from diphtheria and had long-term health problems afterwards. But now both diseases have been largely eradicated because of vaccines. Children must have vaccinations to attend school to avoid breakouts of various diseases. And the vaccine issue has made me think a lot about my beliefs and expectations of myself and others, and the issue of personal rights and its effect on society. What is expectation all about? What beliefs underlie and inform the setting of expectations? The researcher Elizabeth Scott, in her article, The Expectations versus Reality Trap, says we humans are surprisingly inept at predicting how we will feel in various situations. That our expectations can confuse us into thinking that our goals will bring us much more than they actually do. So we often pursue the wrong goals. She cites studies that demonstrate we often do not fully appreciate what is directly in front of us when we are comparing what we have to what we could have, and so we want more. For example, one of her studies found that the happiness levels of lottery winners tended to return to their pre-winning days or lower. The money didn't produce a permanent increase in their happiness level. We tend to nurture beliefs that an ideal relationship, job, money, house, vacation will make us happy. It's kind of a fool's trap, because although we get a temporary boost of joy, it's surprisingly short-lived. Our fantasy is bigger than the reality. We think we must acquire more to make us happy. Our thoughts and feelings entangle us into thinking about the past or the future, wanting more or less or something other than what we have now. We're constantly grasping or clinging for what we think we don't have. So we fail to recognize and appreciate what is already available to us in the current moment, in our current circumstances, currently, right now, right in front of us. Just to make matters a little more complicated, look more deeply into some unwholesome underpinnings of expectations. How are expectations created and influenced by insecurities, prejudices, comparisons, and need for control or power? We need to ask who might benefit from these unwise actions, and how can they be carefully re-examined? We all have expectations, some healthy, some not so much. We get them from our culture, social groups, families and friends, work environments. We also have personal expectations based on our various goals to improve ourselves in a multitude of different ways. We humans love challenges and problem solving, striving and self-improvement. We want to matter, to leave a legacy. We don't want to be disappointed. We want to be happy. So, how many times do we obsess on things we think we want or need to make us happy? How many times are we consumed by the thought of another gadget, a job, a relationship, house, car, retail therapy, hoping that our new acquisition will make us finally happy? Of course, sometimes we are perfectly happy with that outcome. Our expectations are met. What I'm trying to get at here is how often we are not satisfied with what we already have and keep searching for the next happiness fix. As a result, we may have missed the beauty of a moment. Smile, beautiful cloud, clever joke, kind word, or a thoughtful deed, when we are caught up in expecting that having something more, less, or different will make us truly happy. So we're aware of some of the snags and pitfalls of expectations. What if we try to save ourselves some trouble and just aim for low expectations? After all, Jude Morgan offers, no expectations mean there is no risk of disappointment. But would we we be happy with underachievement and mediocre results as a consequence of our low expectations? On the other hand, unrealistically high expectations surely result in chronic failure, frustration, and disappointment. What is a skillful way to navigate? Brian O'Connell suggests skillful ways to make expectations in his article, 6 Tips on Setting Expectations, and emphasizes carefully creating and defining clear objectives with relevant, attainable, specific, measurable goals in a set time frame. When mutual buy-in or agreement is created, and when mileposts are set to use as guides and to gauge progress, then people involved need to have clear guidelines to know when achievable goals and accountability are met, and both giving and receiving meaningful, relevant feedback. So this is what it takes to have expectations really be skillfully created and achieved. So this organizational advice is probably very familiar to you all. We use it in companies, nonprofits, here in this organization, and in our personal expectations. But my career was in teaching in public schools, where we were subject to all the high expectations set by state and local school systems. So truthfully, part of me cringes when I hear high expectations and measurable goals. I needed to do everything I could to support my students to do as well as they could. On top of that, their test results were considered a part of my effectiveness as a teacher, and my evaluations were based on my class results. The pressure was on. However, I could not control all the variables in their home lives, their cultures, personal abilities, nor the many interactions and personalities within the classroom. It took me a long time not to feel so pressured by these expectations and to own them in a different way, my way. As Miriam Tao said, there is no joy involved in following others' expectations of yourself. Yes, I wanted my students to do well as whole human beings who were loved and respected and valued no matter their testing levels. And when coupled with instruction, emotional support, and interventions, these conditions would provide the best opportunities for them to demonstrate their understanding and the best results we could possibly expect. But I think when setting high expectations, the data collection can often become more important than the people making the data. High expectations, if skillfully set, however, definitely serve an important purpose. They can help us maintain high levels of quality, integrity, ethical rigor, and when skillfully implemented, provide necessary guideposts and guardrails to help us achieve our goals. So we need them. Our Unitarian Universalist 7 principles provide an excellent framework for setting expectations to serve the well-being of ourselves, our society, and the world. And the 7 principles are in front of your graded hymnal. Consider one example, for instance, how the inherent worth and dignity of every person can be integral in setting expectations. Consider how these principles invite us to live these values, aligning our beliefs, our expectations, and our actions with them. Manifesting these principles can be a fulfilling lifelong practice of ethical and moral grounding as Unitarian Universalists. We need to be aware of the dynamics of expectations, because if we are not aware of the beliefs and the motivations at the heart of our expectations, we can set a trap that results in failure. But with awareness and intention, we can benefit by setting realistic and healthy expectations. And part of being realistic is knowing things don't always go as we planned. Think of the times our expectations of normalcy are suddenly interrupted, like when a pipe under the house unexpectedly breaks. That happened at our house. The car tire that's suddenly flat. I'm sure you all have that. The surprise appearance of a mouse in the kitchen cabinet. Had that happen? 100-year pandemic. That happened to all of us. Whenever expectations of normal change unexpectedly happens, life feels at least momentarily unanchored, even surreal. Consider how precious a cut flower from the garden is, or holding a smiling baby, or a glorious day with your loved ones, or eating an ice cream. They're impermanent, and we appreciate them for their fragility, their vulnerability. We know these fleeting times won't last because precisely what makes them so precious is their impermanence. In her article, "What if this is it?" Gabriella Ballard said, "I don't always enjoy my life. I spend a great portion of it grasping for the next thing I feel I must have in order to assure my happiness. There's always wanting and needing more. I constantly ask myself, am I good enough yet? After years of vacillating between extremes, I find myself aching for the center. Then, when I remember the blunt and miraculous truth that this is it, I am floored by the fragility of the moment. I awaken to my life with a sense of urgency and awe at the preciousness of it all. And I am finally okay with this being it." I think this is a good example of a sense of peace being available in the current moment without attachment to a specific outcome. Right now is where we can experience the contentment, satisfaction, happiness, and peace we're looking for. Otherwise, we can be the architects of our own dissatisfaction if we expect to satisfy our happiness with a constant desire for more, better, or different circumstances. Often we overlook the simple things that are actually the most important and what really matters. Here's a short story to illustrate this point. "Do you see this goblet?" asked Ajahn Chah, the Thai Buddhist master. "For me, this glass is already broken. I enjoy it. I drink out of it. It holds my water admirably, sometimes even reflecting the sun in beautiful patterns. If I should tap it, it has a lovely ring to it. But when I put this glass on a shelf and the wind knocks over, or my elbow brushes it off the table and it falls to the ground and shatters, I say, of course. When I understand that the glass is already broken, every moment with it is precious." As Jonathan Lockwood Hugh noted, a wonderful gift may not be wrapped as you expect. In the pandemic, our expectations about normal life certainly gave us the opportunity to expect the unexpected. We acquired new technology skills, rose to new challenges in work, home, and social environments, and suffered losses. To our credit, we have frequently adjusted our expectations with an ever-evolving new normal in our personal and collective lives. As Liv Grossman noted, that was the hard part about the world. It wasn't that things were harder than you thought they were going to be. It was that they were hard in ways that you didn't expect. In his article called Ups, Downs, Expectations, and Attachments, What the Buddha Missed, Jeremy Sherman in Psychology Today said, "Expecting too much causes suffering, but expecting too little does too. Expectation isn't some tacked-on human fallibility. It's central to all human and indeed all living behavior. Everything from evolutionary adaptation to scientific reasoning is all about expectation, anticipating tomorrow, gaining predictive utility. The question isn't whether to expect, but what to expect." So may we continue to grow wiser by learning from all experiences as our teacher. May we thoughtfully create and implement expectations that skillfully embody our values. And may we serve the greater good for us all. And finally, may we be open and flexible and very wisely befriend and expect. the unexpected.